Hey guys, Sketchman John here. For a good long while now, I've had two very nice, beautiful drawing apps that have been fighting for my affections, namely Procreate and Adobe Fresco. So I guess maybe you can also just call me Archie, and Adobe Fresco, I don't know, is it Betty? Is it Veronica? The answer is yes. Sometimes you can go with the most beautiful girl in the world, you know, she's hot and she's smart and she's funny, but
she had man hands.
She's a two-faced.
She eats her peas one at a time.
She just took credit for my salad. She's too tan.
She's too good.
She wasn't my type.
She just dislikes me so much. It's irresistible.
This video is going to focus on those little things about Adobe Fresco that personally I don't like it. I don't like it. Just to set the table here, throughout the video I'll be comparing Adobe Fresco to Procreate, simply because those are the two tools that I'm the most familiar with and that I use most often. So the first point, you know, one of the things that gets on my nerves with Adobe Fresco is actually what we're faced with, like the first thing we see when firing up the app. So let's start with Adobe Fresco. So I want you to pay attention to how long it takes and what we have to go through basically before we're ready to start working on a project. So tap the icon, loads up the projects, pick a project, loads it up again. Here we go. So now I'm ready to start using it. Let's compare it now to Procreate. Projects. I can start using it.
Now that's more like it, Mr. Wayne.
You see how much faster and smoother and just better it was than Adobe Fresco? I'm guessing, you know, for Adobe, they have their cloud infrastructure set up in a certain way that, you know, the app has to go fetch different things in a couple of different places and load things up. And Adobe's got like a whole ecosystem of different, you know, applications and things that they have set up. So I'm guessing they're kind of, they have their own limitations in terms of like how they can do things efficiently. But that is not my problem. I don't care. I'm a guy using Fresco and using Procreate. I'm comparing the two. I have the freedom to move from one to the other, pick and choose which tools I utilize depending on the project or whatever, or my mood. So their, you know, infrastructure and cloud stuff, not my problem. So that's one part of the UX UI that's not great about Fresco. So just from the perspective of wanting to, you know, start something and start working right away, I think Procreate is way better. Once you have your app loaded up, let's look at the screen here at everything that we've got laid out. I find Adobe Fresco's interface to be really cluttered and messy and just it's just all over the place.
What am I looking at?
So look, you got like a bunch of menu items on the left hand side, and then you have a group here in the top right. You got another group in the middle. You got a couple at the bottom here. Top right corner, you got more things.
You got a lot going on, kid.
Versus Procreate, it's nice and clean. You got like a couple of sliders here, the two top corners, and that's about it.
Yeah, now that's what I'm talking about.
Now, I understand that like with this, probably the idea is that like, hey, you want to use something, you want to use a tool. Well, they're pretty much like they're a lot more easily accessible with like a single tap versus Procreate, where like, you know, there's sub menus and gestures and things like that. But first of all, although on the surface this sounds like a good idea, the way that this is implemented in Adobe Fresco is just kind of terrible.
Not a great plan.
But with Procreate, sure, maybe a bit of a steeper learning curve, you know, when it comes to using it. But once you get the basic hang of it, it's just a pleasure to use. It's really good. Procreate, as I understand it, has been designed from the ground up, to use a touch interface, to use a tablet and mainly an iPad. So it's optimized with that in mind, versus Adobe understands that people are using Fresco on tablets, but go together in terms of the user interface, keeping in mind that maybe they want to use the same visual language and paradigm, that they've set up for all their other apps, so that there's some consistency when you go from one place to another. Again, I don't care. It's not my problem. This is the app I'm using, and I want it to be smooth and good, and this is just messy and not as good. Finally, one UX UI element that I want to address here before moving on, and it's by far the one that kind of gets on my nerves so much.
This will not stand, this aggression will not stand, man.
Let's say, okay, I got my project here, and all right, I'm gonna pick a brush, this flat one here, and I start using it. Okay, this works fine. How about I want to change the color. Okay, that's good. This works good. And then how about, okay, brush size. Whoops. Brush size. Select, again, tap out of it. Okay, this works good too. Okay, now let's say I want to enable the symmetry tool here. So I go into grids. In symmetry, I toggle it on. I tap out the... Oh, that's right. In these menu items, I gotta tap the icon again to close the menu. I can't just tap out of it. So if I'm here and I'm messing around with the opacity, well, I can't tap out of it. I gotta click the menu item here to close that. So what about if I'm like, let's say in the layer related menu here? This I can tap out of. So it's just completely inconsistent. I'm in one menu here. I can kind of tap out to close it, and another set I gotta that doesn't work. I gotta click the actual little icon to close the menu. It is so annoying. Like why? Why is this like? And maybe some people can get used to it. And just they know, okay, hey, I'm on this side. I go out, I tap out of it, it'll close it. If I'm here, I got to do this. If I'm over there, I got to do that. So maybe some people they're just good at that, and they kind of. I'm not one of those people. I've never gotten used to it. I always get mixed up. I always try to tap out of like these items. It doesn't work, and I got to remember. Oh, no, wait, I gotta tap this to close it up. It's just, it's really, really, really annoying. I'm not, it's not like making it consistent across the board would break the visual language that they've established throughout their precious ecosystem. It's not going to break anything. It's just going to make my life better, and they haven't done that. Number two, it's a little bit minor. I guess it's not as big as the other two that I'll be covering in this video, but it is a nice to have that Adobe Fresco simply doesn't have, and that is a gradient tool for coloring. I understand that probably the iPad version of Photoshop has gradients for me to use if I wanted to, but I don't. That's no good. I don't want to fire up another app just so I can do a couple of things, just go through that whole experience again with, I'm sure, its own UX UI issues and all that. I want everything I need in a single app. Now, Procreate doesn't have a gradient tool either, but they have a great workaround that I would argue is even better than a traditional gradient tool. So let's go back into Procreate here. I'm going to start a new project. Whatever. And let's say I want to blend two colors. So this yellow with, I don't know, this red. Okay, now I go into the adjustments menu and pick blur. I just slide my finger and I can decide how much they blend or not. Look at this. It's great. It's blending perfectly well, and I have full control in terms of the degree to which they blend. And I can also just do different things. So if, let's say, this is not what I want, okay, and I want the whole backdrop to be yellow, and I say I want it to blend with like a kind of partial circle here in the corner. Well, I can do that. Look at this. And if, let's say, I want more than 2 colors, I want 3 colors. Okay, that's fine. Purple. I'm gonna make the corner purple here. Here we go. Blur. Look at this. Doesn't this look great? There's no gradient tool, but at least it's got this blur effect that you can use to, you know, work around that sort of lack of functionality and actually get to the end result, or maybe even something better than you would have done with a traditional gradient tool. But, you know, Procreate can do that because it has a blur tool. And this gets me to point number 3 that I really dislike about Adobe Fresco, and that is its lack of a blur tool. Blur is it is useful, at least for me, guys. It is useful. I use it fairly often for different things. The gradient is one of them, but you know, there's different scenarios where I need blur. For example, if I come here in the previous Procreate drawing here, what I do is a lot of times, like, I'll draw backgrounds, but you know, the backgrounds are not the focus of what I want to show in my drawing. So a lot of times I'll just kind of block out basic shapes and then blur them out so that they look generally right and they serve their purpose. But, you know, I don't have to kind of go in and spend time, you know, drawing there. So for example, in this case, I drew kind of a basic skyline here. I kind of layered it up into 3 different layers. So the further the layer, the more blurry it is. And same thing with these clouds here. I put the clouds as like basic white shapes with like kind of shaded, you know, area underneath. And then I blurred it out so that, you know, the focus is on these 2 characters in the foreground, and in the back you have elements that are recognizable and believable and get the job done. But because, you know, they're blurred out and all that, I didn't have to go in and kind of draw anything in great detail. Blur is useful. The other other scenarios is if, let's say, I want to depict fast movement, you can use blur for that. But there's no blur in Fresco. I looked throughout like this entire messy interface. I couldn't find it. I Googled it. It's just not something that's in Fresco. The closest kind of alternative or workaround that I was able to find online is some people saying that I should maybe use the smudge tool, this guy here, to try to do gradients and blurs and this like that. That's no good, guys. That is no good. It's just a garbage alternative to something that I find should have been in Adobe Fresco. And it's not like Adobe is a stranger to some overlap, you know, amongst their different software. You know, Photoshop has some things that you can also do in Illustrator, maybe not quite as well, or to the same level of control and, you know, versatility and all that. But there are overlaps, you know, when you're going from one Adobe product to another. So I don't think it would be the end of the world for them to add at least a blur tool inside Adobe Fresco. Again, I understand that probably some of Adobe's other iPad apps like Photoshop may have, you know, these other things that I'm looking for, like gradient and blur. I don't want to do that. It's not my problem. Look, I have a perfectly good alternative in Procreate, so really I can just go and use that and use the tools that it already offers. I don't want to work in Fresco and for some things and then fire up an app for something else. I get that, like in sort of a more corporate environment where like you have different workflows and different people do different things and all that, it's good to have like a integrated ecosystem where people can access the same file with the different tools and all that. That's not me, okay? I'm a single artist.
And I stress the word artist.
I draw. I'm not doing sort of really complex projects or anything like that. So for drawing and for coloring, really I want my basic shit in one place, okay? Like don't make me go through different apps just to work on a single project. But I don't know if amongst you guys, if there's anybody who uses Adobe Fresco extensively, maybe there's some things that I miss. Maybe there is a way to achieve a blur effect or some kind of gradient effect and all that. Let me know in the comment section if I've missed something, or if there's even more terrible things about Adobe Fresco that I didn't mention. So yeah, just let me know in the comment section. And if you like this video, just hit the like and subscribe. It would really help a lot. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep drawing.
Every little stepping stone, each has magic all its own. Learning lines and curves so sweet, drawing brings the heart's own beat.